All right, let's get right into it. We're going to dive into a story where one of the world's most magnificent cities, well, it just vanished, completely and totally wiped off the map. This is the incredible story of the fall of Ayutthaya.
And you know that quote, it's not an exaggeration in the slightest. In 1767, the glittering capital of the Siamese kingdom was systematically torched and destroyed. Imagine golden temples looted, people scattered to the winds. It was a cultural catastrophe on a scale that is honestly hard to wrap your head around.
So this all raises two massive questions, right? First, how on earth does a city that everyone thought was invincible just fall apart? And maybe even more importantly, why does this single event still echo so powerfully in Thailand today? That's what we're here to unpack.
But first, before we get to the destruction, we have to understand what was actually lost. We need to try and see Ayutthaya not as the ruins you might visit today, but as the vibrant, golden, thriving metropolis it truly was.
And this chart right here really puts it all into perspective. At its absolute peak, Ayutthaya was home to over 1 million people. 1 million. To give you some context, that made it significantly larger than London at the exact same time. So let's be clear, this wasn't some quiet regional power. This was a global megacity.
And what a city it was. I mean, it was this true cosmopolitan paradise. You had traders pouring in from Europe, from all over Asia, Portugal, Japan, China, you name it. The Siamese court was so influential, they were sending diplomats all the way to France, to the actual court of the Sun King, Louis XIV. Foreign visitors who came were just blown away. They wrote about these incredible golden spires, grand palaces, endless canals, and the whole thing was protected by 3 rivers and massive walls. They literally called it invincible. But as history has shown us time and time again, no city, no matter how grand or well-defended, is truly invincible. And Ayutthaya had a powerful, incredibly ambitious rival growing right on its doorstep, the Burmese Empire.
So around the mid-1700s, Burma gets unified under this new, very aggressive dynasty called the Konbaung. Now the Siamese and the Burmese, they've been rivals for centuries, always clashing. But this was different. Under their new king, Ayutthaya, it became an obsession. They had one single overriding goal: to finally, once and for all, crush Ayutthaya.
Their first big shot came in 1760. The Burmese army surrounded the city, but then something completely unexpected happened. Their king got sick and died. Just like that, the siege was over. Ayutthaya was saved. But, and this is the crucial part, what did the Siamese do next? Basically, nothing. They celebrated their victory, but they didn't prepare. They didn't strengthen their defenses. They got complacent, and that single mistake would ultimately seal their fate. Okay, so let's fast forward just a few years to 1765. The Burmese are back, and this time, it's not just about more soldiers. Oh no. This time, they have a much, much smarter plan. And you can see just how brilliant their strategy was. Instead of just one massive army attacking from one direction, they split their forces. One army came down from the north, another swept in from the west. It was a classic pincer movement, and it was devastatingly effective. Ayutthaya was caught in a trap. It was completely cut off. No help could get in, and no one could get out.
For 14 long months, the city somehow held on. But outside the walls, the Burmese were methodical. They destroyed all the crops, they blocked every supply route. And inside the city, a slow-motion catastrophe began to unfold. Food ran out. The price of rice skyrocketed to be worth more than gold. Then came the disease. People became so desperate they were eating anything they could find. Rats, leather, you name it. The once great city was literally starving to death.
The defenders fought on bravely, hoping for some kind of miracle. But after more than a year under siege, the end was near. The invincible city was about to fall. Mark this date, April 7th, 1767. On that night, the Burmese forces finally broke through the walls. And just like that, after 417 years as the heart of the Siamese kingdom, Ayutthaya's time was over.
What followed wasn't just a conquest, it was an annihilation. It was as if the Burmese wanted to destroy Ayutthaya's very soul. They burned the sacred temples. They found a famous 16-meter Buddha covered in hundreds of kilos of solid gold and melted it all down. You know those iconic images of beheaded Buddha statues you can still see today? That's a direct result of this rampage. Palaces, libraries with centuries of knowledge, all of it turned to ash.
And that really seems like it should be the end of the story, right? The kingdom was shattered, leaderless, completely broken. But from this absolute low point, this rock-bottom moment, a brand new chapter for the Thai people was about to begin.
In the chaos after the fall, the country fractured, splintering among different warlords. But one brilliant general named Taksin simply refused to surrender. He rallied what was left of the Siamese forces, drove the Burmese out, and began the impossible task of reuniting the nation. He established a new capital, and his successor, King Rama I, would eventually move it across the river to a small village called Bangkok, which he would model after the lost glory of Ayutthaya.
So, now that we know the story of the fall and the rebirth, let's circle all the way back to that first big question. Why did this happen? How could such a powerful kingdom collapse so completely?
Well, historians really point to a perfect storm of factors. Internally, the kingdom had been weakened by corruption and weak leadership. Then you had that fatal complacency after the first siege that left them totally unprepared. Crucially, their European trading partners all refused to get involved. They just saw no profit in it. And finally, you throw in that superior two-pronged military strategy from the Burmese. It was just a recipe for disaster. And this brings us to our final question. Why does this all still matter so much? For modern Thailand, the fall of Ayutthaya isn't just history, it's the nation's foundational lesson. It's a story that teaches that unity is strength and division leads to ruin. It's a warning to never, ever grow complacent. But maybe the most important lesson of all is that it proves a culture can survive even the most total destruction. It's a reminder, woven into the national identity, that a nation that remembers its history can always, always rebuild.
So today, the ruins of Ayutthaya are so much more than just a tourist site. They are a solemn reminder that greatness is fragile, that empires can and do fall, but they're also a powerful testament to resilience. And it leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? When everything is lost, when the ashes are still warm, what is that spark that allows a people not just to survive, but to be reborn?